Oh boy, here we go. Star Citizen's biggest patch since 3.18 has finally dropped. While some people are upset that some things didn't make the release cutoff, let me tell you why I am still excited. Hi, I'm Leaf, and welcome to the channel. Sometimes introducing new players to Star Citizen can be a little rough.
I guess the ladies won't complain that you got a thruster in the bed.
What the fuck? Slow down! The game is in alpha and can be rough around the edges as they make it. And while this patch is still going to have those problems, a ton of quality of life stuff has been introduced that just might be enough for you to introduce your friends into the game without suffering copious amounts of secondhand embarrassment. The UI polish in this patch is helping the game resemble something closer to a finished game, and that's because a lot of these features are coming from the single-player game being developed alongside Star Citizen called Squadron 42. So let us wander into the strange realm where positivity and Star Citizen meet and talk about the cool updates in patch 3.23. And maybe, just maybe, we might sucker you into playing the game. I said maybe. Let's kick it off with FPS Updates, since this is an area you're probably all familiar with. First-person combat is a large part of Star Citizen. Even if you don't seek out combat, there's a good chance at some point it's going to cross your life in the verse. Even with delivery missions, it's a good idea to stay kitted out in case of angry NPCs or pirates. Since it's so integral to the Star Citizen experience, it makes sense to try and make it as immersive as possible. 3.23 brings some much needed changes and upgrades. The dynamic crosshairs is probably the one that excites me the most. In Star Citizen, their guiding design philosophy is to make every system feel grounded and diegetic. Having a crosshair in the game itself does not really follow that philosophy. But having one that looks like it's attached to your barrel through your heads-up display that moves with your gun's sway and recoil, that's a lot more like it. With the true physicalization and not faking it philosophy that CIG has, it's easy to accidentally shoot a wall when you thought you'd shoot past it. This prevents that silly mistake, so you don't alert enemies to your terrible aim. What's extra cool is that the crosshair only appears with certain helmets, as the heads-up display changes per manufacturer and type of helmet, with more to come. With that, the procedural recoil adds a much-needed layer of immersion to the weapons. While random spray patterns would not fly in competitive games, Star Citizen is not trying to be one. In real life, you'd have small amounts of variance in your spray patterns. They would never be the same. Aiming down sights, though, will mitigate this, so it's not like it's a constant strain against RNG, just when you decide to hip fire. I think it's been done tastefully, and I play competitive shooters. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments. While you're aiming down your sights, why not pay attention to the new scopes, giving you your peripheral vision back and even parallaxing so you can see the inside of your scopes when firing. It's just that extra level of gorgeousness that keeps you immersed. Having situational awareness is toy! The reloading changes are a big one. Now there's two types of reloads: backpack reloading for faster reloads at the cost of immersion, and magazine repoing for condensing ammo into one magazine without going into the inventory menu. And speaking of ammo, bullet blocking has been removed. Bullets will no longer be blocked by backpacks or magazines, confusing you as to why your shots aren't landing. And to add on to that, hit markers and a final red X have been added. Those, of course, are optional features. Now, overall, I'm pretty happy with these changes, but I do have one small concern. Hit markers inherently reduce immersion. I no longer have to check my kills to confirm. Just spray and wait for the red X. While you can turn these off, that doesn't mean my opponents will. Also, does the red X confirm a kill or a down state? So here's where I get confused. By allowing us to turn off the hit markers in dynamic crosshair, they clearly understand what their game design philosophy is, but seem to either A, have overlooked some issues, or B, chose to turn a blind eye in this situation to bring in a more casual audience, because that's what most gamers are familiar with. If CIG ever does go full-blown casual, this is one of those moments I want you all to timestamp and come back to as an early sign. I have high hopes that they won't though, and we'll talk about that later. Next on the update list is Master Modes. This one has been quite a contentious topic in the community, given that it affects multiple hardcore groups of players: dogfighters and racers. Master Modes is a concept for ships that allow the ship to enter different modes or specialties. In this case, the Master Modes being introduced changed the combat experience quite drastically in Star Citizen. There's two modes: Combat Mode and Navigation Mode. Combat Mode is for fighting, and Navigation Mode is for when you want to use quantum jumping or just go fast. What happens if I go fucking fast? Oh, shit! Oh, fuck! These modes force the player to think more about their engagements, since it takes time to switch between your modes. Don't think you can win the fight? Stay in navigation mode and get the heck out of there. With this implementation comes some fundamental changes, like categorizing ships into different archetypes based on their size and purpose. These archetypes include light fighters, medium fighters, heavy fighters, racers, fighter bombers, gunboats, corvettes, and frigates. Each archetype will have different strengths and weaknesses. The targeting system is also being reworked. Players will now have a new way to aim at specific parts of a ship. This is called precision targeting. It's like VATS from Fallout, but with skill still attached to it instead of chance, since you still have to aim. This is going to allow players to target specific components of a ship, such as the engines or the weapons. This is important because remember I said things in Star Citizen are physicalized and ship components are spread around the ship in various places that you might want to target and take down, like a gravity generator or their quantum drive. Now, one of the biggest changes that made me say hold up.
From 3.23 onwards, you will not be able to mount fixed guns on your ship anymore. In addition to that, all the turrets...
Hardpoint weapons will no longer exist. All weapons are gimbaled, but only turrets can use auto-gimbaling. Pilots will have to manually control the gimbal. The developers have been very excited about master modes, and honestly, I have no issues with it, but dogfighters hate it. Add in that racers are upset about changes to the flight system, like tricording being removed, and how about my concerns with the FPS hit markers? You can kinda understand where some of that negative feedback from hardcore players is coming from. Once we're done with the updates though, as I said, I'm gonna show you why I don't think we need to be concerned about a casualization of the game. Our next section though is something I think everyone can get behind. While you're not going to be able to look like you skipped not only your leg day but everyone else's too, you are going to have an insane amount of control of what your character looks like while playing within the world's parameters with the new character creator. This creator is starting on the right foot. Or the right nose? How they deal with proper curly hair is yet to be seen though, and they did mention that they're going to be adding and updating the database of faces that they're scanning in from real human beings that you can pick from. I'm gonna bang out the next couple of updates pretty quick without too much in-depth talk about them because there's some doozies at the end we still gotta spend time on. The fourth update I want to talk about today are distribution centers. They may sound like you're about to go to work at Amazon, but well, some missions might still be delivery missions, but that's not everything you'll do there. While they are colossal hubs owned by organizations to distribute goods, distribution centers will essentially be microcosms for all the FPS-related gameplay in the universe. Players can expect a variety of missions at these locations like delivery missions, infiltration missions, assassination missions, and theft missions. The type of missions a player will get will depend on their reputation with the owner of the distribution center, and security measures at distribution centers will include guards, turrets, and restricted airspace, and players who choose to ignore that security will probably face heavy resistance, and that resistance will again depend on your reputation. I think it's a fun way to get all the players in one spot doing whatever kinds of missions that they prefer to do. One of the cool things about Star Citizen is seeing other players just doing their things, being on their way and busybodying around the universe. Some are picking up groceries, while others are trying to kill them and steal their groceries. The persistent universe is Star Citizen's MMO side of things. There's a set of modules though, called Arena Commander, where you can just play different game modes without having to go into the MMO itself. This is a great area to test out guns or ships or just try some fun new game modes. Arena Commander's seen some big updates with 5 new racetracks coming, Skyscraper, Kaplan Circuit, Dunlow Derby, Lorville Outskirts, and Stanton Pyro Jump Point. Some new experimental modes, including custom lobbies, thank you, which allow players to team up with mates and play with custom settings. You can also now use your persistent universe character in Arena Commander. Voice over IP is also now enabled in Arena Commander. There's some changes to Gun Rush, Pirate Swarm, and general team balancing, and 2 new achievements for anyone that goes for those in Star Citizen. There's Vandal Aggressor Badge and 99th Test Squadron Badge. There are a ton of new missions being added. That's good. I'm not going to go over all of them. But some of those new missions are to hunt fauna. Star Citizen finally has animals. Now it's just the 2 of them, the Copian and the Merrick, land and air respectively. Granted, when I tried to play them in the test servers, they were kind of half working due to the server load. Oh shit, look at these guys. Oh fuck! Oh fuck! But this is going to bring a lot of life to the verse. There are new item bank recovery terminals to get back items that you paid real money for, since before you had to wait until there was a wipe if you lost them in the verse. This one will make you wet. Water physics have been added, which under the right conditions can look pretty sick. The one issue I have with these though is that they're client side, meaning that you can just turn them off or down, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What if something is floating and the waves make it pop up really high? Will it be floating for other people with waves off? I think right now that the waves don't affect the floating object, but that's gonna make it look a little bit janky. Maybe I'm just being a little too critical, because let's be real, dynamic waves in an MMO that's an entire solar system is still pretty sick. All right, it's now time for our final Big Five. These guys are juicy, so buckle up. Now, technically, our next section, freight elevators and persistent hangars, isn't in yet at the time of posting, since the devs said in its current state, it would make the game unplayable. Now, this of course is unfortunate because freight elevators and persistent hangars are arguably the most game-changing aspect that this patch was supposed to have. Thankfully, it is still scheduled though to be coming in a 3.23.x patch. One issue with Star Citizen though is the lack of a feeling of permanence. The whole goal of the game is to create a living world that constantly grows and develops. Being an alpha, that's going to be impossible since there are wipes from time to time. But that aside, we don't really have any space that we can call our own, a home base. This is why the persistent hangars alongside the freight elevator was going to change everything until we get base building. Persistent hangars will be exactly as they sound, instanced hangars that you can do whatever you want in, and things will persist. Leave a missile on the floor, it'll be there the next time you pop into that space. When I hear instanced, my red flag sensor usually goes off because, as I've mentioned in a lot of my other videos, one of the reasons Star Citizen is cool is that everything happens for everyone, unlike in other MMOs, where some things are instanced and what someone else sees isn't necessarily what you see, or that area, like a cave system, doesn't take up real-world space. But with hangars, I think this one passes. Essentially, you'll get your own space, and when you call ATC to leave your hangar, the whole hangar will move like an elevator to the hangar doors, and you'll leave out the door. Everyone else is going to be able to see you leave just like before, so the immersion isn't really lost. The other aspect to this duo of an update is the freight elevator, which will finally physicalize everything and remove the inventory system that we have now. Right now, you just pop stuff from one screen to another, making it feel like all your items are digital. I mean, they are, but like digital in the verse. Digital. Wait, does that cancel out? Are they real now? Freight elevators will bring you the physicalized goods, which you'll then store in your ship by manipulating them through the actual game world, not menus. While the mobiGlass didn't provide as much friction for players as some other areas of the game have, a rework to modernize the UI and usability of it is very much welcome. The mobiGlass is essentially your in-game start menu and information hub, so you interact with it quite a bit. When showing new players, this will be one of those things that if it looks nicer, players might subconsciously have a better time with the game. Smooth UI is key to the appearance of a functioning game. This comes alongside a complete rework of the HUD that shows dynamic elements like mission updates or ground map if you can find map terminals to download the maps from. And it also pairs with the brand spanking new StarMap. When I mentioned areas of the game that cause friction, I cannot understate how much I was alluding to this thing. It has more friction and causes more of a pain than Thanksgiving dinner with your political uncle. You'd end up zooming into some random spot on the map and getting more lost than the devs of the Gollum game clearly were in their lives when they made that game. The new map comes with mouse snapping to points of interest, smooth transitions from your ship map up to the solar system views, and improved visuals. Plus, a search function. If you want to see how excited I was about this, here's my reaction to seeing it for the first time. Oh my god. Oh, and is it not? Oh, can we all cry? Can we all put the biggest dubs in chat right now? Look at this. We have a functioning StarMap. But almost nothing is more critical to the success of Star Citizen than server meshing. Star Citizen's Alpha 3.23 might not be the final destination, but it's a significant step on the exciting journey towards server meshing, the technology poised to transform the game's universe. Server meshing breaks free from the constraints of a single server instance by distributing the game world across multiple servers. Alpha 3.23 takes a critical step in this direction, with the confirmed implementation of the replication layer. This crucial technology acts as the nervous system of sorts of server meshing, ensuring smooth information flow between servers. It also has the great side effect of making sure if a server crashes, you don't get booted to main menu, because you're connected to the replication layer itself, not the server. Everything will pause while a new server spools up, in which time you can stand up and go get that glass of water that you totally forgot to get an hour ago. The next stage after that is static server meshing, and it's on the horizon, and Alpha 3.23 might be laying the groundwork for future tests. This part of server meshing will allow players to seamlessly transition between servers within a single system, like Stanton, or multiple systems, like Pyro. They've already been testing this with players. The purpose is to allow multiple servers to control one play space, increasing performance of each server as they have less work to do. The ultimate goal, though, is dynamic server meshing, and it remains a ways off. This allows new servers to spool up and down as needed dynamically, so the more busy an area gets, the server has the possibility of asking a new server to spool up and help with the load by handing off responsibilities. With Star Citizen's room system, this can be down to an individual room in a building or a ship. That would be quite expensive though, so don't expect everyone to have their own server, unless they start selling a ton more Legatus packages. But imagine you're in a bar with your friends and suddenly a space battle breaks out above you and the bartenders stop working because the server controlling that area is overloaded with missile calculations and ship collision calculations. A new server could spool up to control that bar and everything in it. And now because all the information comes from the replication layer itself and not the server, you could still step outside and see the battle happening, since your server in the bar isn't the one doing the calculations, so the drinks keep on pouring from the NPC bartender. The fact that we've seen a lot of active progress towards this dream this year alone is, to put it lightly, extremely exciting. On over to the engine updates. I'm really excited about volumetric clouds and ground fog being added, because one of the issues with making a world feel realistic is grounding assets. Without things like shadows, a character would look like they're just floating in the space, not truly there. Ground fog plays a similar role, blending the air and the ground together, and allowing for incredibly gorgeous shots like this. Make sure to subscribe, by the way. I often do cinematic videos of shots I gather in the verse. I'm not gonna lie, me and my buddy are kinda sick at it. Also on the engine side of things, we have support for GPU upscaling, including DLSS, FSR, and an in-house TSR solution. Now, I personally don't really like upscalers like DLSS. I tend to prefer native resolution, as upscalers will never be as sharp. You can always see a bit of the graininess. But as my PC has been struggling to keep up with an unoptimized alpha, if I want to be able to actually record footage for these videos in heavily populated areas, I might need to start using it. Then we have the new EVA system. The improved control is amazing. This new system allows players to look around independently of the direction that their body's facing. This makes it much easier to maneuver in tight spaces and keep track of your surroundings. There's smooth transitions entering and exiting EVA, because before it was very easy to land on your head and crack your skull open. This new system also works perfectly with the zero-G traversal. Add in fuel and the fact that you actually carry momentum if you just stop putting inputs in, like it should always have happened in space, and you just get an overall much more fluid and smooth EVA system, reducing the amount of friction that newer players are going to have when flying around outside their ship. Our final category, that's right, we've made it, guys, thank you for sticking along if you have, falls under the make users not hate their life playing this game category, which will be huge for new players, called Pie Piss. Yes, Pie Piss.
All right, let's talk about Pie Piss.
Well, it was better when it was piss pit.
It used to be Piss Pit?
Yeah.
The player interaction system, or experience, in 3.23 comes with a bunch of improvements. The new interaction prompt shows which item you're going to interact with and the type of interaction that will be performed by simply tapping F instead of holding it down like before. Holding it down, you also get access to this new interaction wheel, which is just visually 10 times better than what we had before and much easier to use. You can also change what the default tapping of F does, and you can set a secondary and primary for it. There's a new scoring system to make sure that when you're looking in a jumble of stuff, you pick up the right thing. And if you have a cart slightly off screen and you tap F, it'll know that you probably contextually want to interact with that object. The new loot screen is gorgeous. Oh my god, trying to navigate the old one in the middle of a battle was brutal. Holy crap, guys. We did it. We made it to the end of this massive patch, but I did tell you that I was going to address a couple of the grumblings I heard about the casualization of the game. Now, unfortunately, I ran out of time to make graphics, so here's my paint drawing of it. While Star Citizen isn't a simulator, and it never has been, it does edge more on the realism side of things compared to games like No Man's Sky. And even though there are a couple things I don't necessarily agree with fundamentally being implemented into the game, firstly, there's still time for those things to change, and secondly, this game still sits far ahead of most casual games. Their philosophy has always been make it realistic, and then bring it back to the point of being fun. But one of the core guiding principles of Star Citizen game design is systemic gameplay, and this inherently is going to make a world feel like it's a lot more reactive to the player, and reactive worlds feel a lot more realistic. While CIG is definitely going to want more players playing their game, so some things will trend towards the casual player, I know that they know that the reason Star Citizen has such a strong player base is because they're making the game the way they want it to be, not the way every other AAA developer makes games. I could see the argument that casualization of the game will bring in new backers, and as funding starts to slow down as we reach these next few years of development, that they might need this to achieve that long-term goal of what Chris Roberts wants. I just genuinely, until we see it, don't see that becoming a problem. I have nothing more to say, and I didn't really write an outro to this, so all I gotta say is shout outs to everyone joining the channel. We have a couple new members, Tyler and O'Sullivan, so thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you guys want to join them, you'll have access to behind the scenes content and stuff that we never release to the public, and access to videos like this before anyone else sees them. But if you really don't care, I'll take a like and a subscribe, or even just a comment below telling me how stinky I am. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the 323 verse.